Before this video starts, I would like to give credit to CS Ghost Animation for giving me a lot of inspiration to make this video. He covers some of the talking points in his video, so go watch it. I put a link in the description, it's really good. So, you want to build a PC. It's actually not that intense of a project, but it's still interesting to know about because even though the desktop building process is simple, there are still a lot of components that make all the parts work and are good to know if you're trying to either fix a broken part or do deeper market research to find better computer parts. So that's what I'll be going over in this video. First off, a PC is a personal computer.
Wait, couldn't you call any smart device a PC?
Yes, technically, but there are also different PCs depending on who you are, what your budget is, and most importantly, what you're doing on them. If you're looking to be mostly streaming content, ergo YouTube, Netflix, or Spotify, then a regular iPhone is best. If you want something powerful, but you aren't doing anything that involves rendering, you'll want to buy a Mac or Windows laptop that doesn't have a dedicated GPU, more on that later. And if you're getting into gaming, you'll want a gaming laptop or desktop. If you have no idea what I just said, then listen up. Here are all the parts and what they do. The most important part of the PC is the motherboard. If you enjoy your PC working, then you're going to need one of these. The motherboard is the spine of the PC. It connects everything together. If the CPU processes something, it needs to be able to communicate with the GPU and hard drive. If you don't understand this, just say the CPU is your brain and the GPU is your body. Your brain needs to move your body, so to do that, it tells your joints to move, but it communicates via the backbone, or the motherboard. When you look at PCs on the motherboard, you will notice everything is connected to it. If absolutely nothing is turning on your PC, it's the motherboard, so don't cheap out on it. Now, the CPU is just as important. No CPU equals no computer. Write that down. You're doing great. I talked about it a bit before, but the CPU is like the brain. Going back to the body analogy, if you have no backbone, you have working parts but you can't use them. If you had no brain, you would be dead. If you know how the brain works, the CPU is pretty straightforward. Anything that happens on your PC gets sent to the CPU, tells the PC what to do. Now, there are two types of CPUs that do different things, so see which one correlates to you more. An ARM CPU would be what you would see on a phone, and an x86 CPU would be on most laptops and desktops. To simplify this, so you don't have to watch a 20-minute video on the differences between the two, just know that an x86 CPU focuses on performance, while ARM CPUs work on efficiency. So if you're streaming programs on an ARM CPU, an x86 CPU made that program. Now, the hard drive is a pretty self-explanatory part. Games are files, and files are bytes, and bytes need to be stored. If you're building a PC, you're going to want 1 or 2 terabytes of storage. Games are big, but hopefully so is your budget, because you're building a gaming PC. RAM is kind of similar but different. If the hard drive is long-term, the RAM is short-term. To simplify this for the average Yoshi viewer, your storage in your PC is your inventory, able to be accessed whenever you want, but sometimes hard to get. The RAM storage is your hotbar, the 9 items you can access on the fly. Your RAM is important because your PC would be so unbelievably slow that you would probably rather read a book. Common RAM numbers are 8 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes. We live in a year where video games are big now, and 8 gigabytes just really isn't enough RAM, so aim for 16. It really isn't that much more expensive. Now, all the parts are great, but they do not work if they can't get power, so you need a power supply. The power supply is something you can't cheap out on because if your power supply sucks, your PC will burn. The power supply is a certain number of watts, and it depends on how much power your parts take. I'll talk more about the specifics later, but just for now, no, higher wattage is better. So now that you know how the PC works, you might be wondering what you need to order a functional PC. So don't worry, that's what the second part is about.
Why would I do this if I can just buy a gaming laptop? It's portable and has similar specs.
No, that's not a good idea. First off, gaming laptops are huge and heavy. Remember, most laptops don't have their own dedicated GPU, so that takes a lot of weight off. Even though laptop GPUs aren't as big as regular GPUs, they're still heavy as shit, so carrying it around is still a pain. And because all the parts have to fit together in a small space, some sacrifices have to be made, such as the fact that the battery life kinda sucks on them and the PCs are crazy loud. But for certain people, such as frequent flyers, they want to have power without having a huge desktop. A lot of my friends play their games on their Mac, and despite knowing that they suck, they still buy them. If you want to play video games frequently, please don't buy a Mac. They are terrible. Not only because the laptops are terrible, but because they're not optimized for gaming. Get a desktop or gaming laptop. These PCs are still capable of doing what Macs can, but they also play video games. I see a lot of people also buy pre-built PCs, and I get it. Some people can't build PCs and just want it assembled. But we live in a time where PCs are so damn expensive that's just kind of a waste of money to pay $200 extra for somebody to do something that's so simple. The first thing you should be thinking about is whether this is a good time to build a PC. Prices change a lot based on supply and demand. For example, mid-2020 was probably the worst time to build one. Millions of people stuck inside looking for something to do, and there's a global pandemic slowing down chip production. Couple that with a new GPU lineup that just came out and you get a shopping disaster.
Let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. Yes! 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 No! 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 Fuck!
Recently, the problem has gotten a little better, so I would argue that now is a pretty good time to build one. So first off, the GPU, the most expensive part and the most important part in your PC being good. There are two main GPU brands, AMD and Nvidia. The AMD cards are worse, so don't buy one unless you're desperate. That's not true. AMD cards are perfectly fine. I just didn't want to go over their naming scheme. As for the Nvidia line, stick with me here. It gets a little bit complicated. Every 3 or 4 years, Nvidia makes a new line of cards. It goes up in numbers such as 7000 series or the 8000 series, 9000 series, etc. Then it goes up to the 1000 series, the 1600 series, and then the 2000 series. Don't ask. In each of these series, the tens digit represents the power of the cards in that series, starting with the 50, then 60, 70, 80, and then 90. And each card has a better version with a TI after it. So combine everything together and you can find a card such as a 1070 or a 3060 Ti. The CPUs have two companies, the AMD and the Intel. AMDs are objectively better, so I'm going to go over those. Every CPU has a Ryzen number, going 3, 5, 7, and 9. And after that, there's a number in the thousands representing the generation of that card, starting with 1 and going up to 5, and the hundreds digit depends on the Ryzen number. The Ryzen 3 has 400 coming after it, the Ryzen 5 has 600 coming after it, the Ryzen 7 has 700 coming after it, and the Ryzen 9 has 900 coming after it. So CPU example would be the Ryzen 5 3600 or the Ryzen 7 5700. The most important thing that's deciding what motherboard you get is the size of your case. If you're getting a smaller case, you're going to need a smaller motherboard. And if you have a bigger case, a small motherboard just won't work. If you get a motherboard adequate to the size of your PC, it will work. I explained the RAM quantities a bit earlier, but I didn't talk about exactly how they work. RAM needs to communicate with each other in even numbers, so if you get one stick of RAM, it won't really work. So if you're getting 8 gigabytes of RAM, you're going to get 2 sticks of 4 gigabytes of RAM instead of one stick that's 8 gigabytes. And if you were to get 16 gigabytes, then you need 2 sticks of 8. The PC processes RAM really weirdly if there's an odd number of sticks, and it does work, but it just will slow it down. I already sort of explained the power supply wattage, but always play it safe when you're buying these. $30 ones will explode your PC, so make sure to just go for higher wattage ones, and depending on your graphics card really is what wattage you want more. If you get a really high wattage power supply and your specs aren't that good, it's just going to take up money on your energy bill, and it has a higher chance of shutting down the PC. But other than that, there's not really a problem with getting more watts, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Now you know everything you need to know. Somehow, if you're still through this video, then you can consult somebody smarter than me who will explain the building process. I would highly recommend channels like Linus Tech Tips. He shows the building process really well, and I'm going to leave my PC part recommendations in the description so that you don't have to do a bunch of research. So that's all I got. Now, here's a long-ass outro. If you somehow made it to the end of this long-ass video, thank you so much. I spent like 25 hours on this video. Even though it doesn't seem like it, I'm just asset editing. I don't really, I can do it, it's just really bad at the process. And I just struggle to find motivation to make these videos. I'm not getting that many views, I'm not getting that many subs, and I know uploading more will get me more of that, but it's hard because of the original thing I just said. So yeah, I'm trying to upload more. I have video ideas. The issue is they're all long video essay type things like this one. So I'm going to try to push out more YouTube shorts more so that I can make more content and I can still be on the algorithm for when I post these big videos. But yeah, I hope you'll see more of me. I hope you really enjoyed this video because it took so long. And yeah, it really does mean the world to me if you like and subscribe. And also, thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. Making it to the end matters so much more than all of this other stuff.